In Grapevine, Texas, outside of Dallas-Fort Worth, police are trying to figure out the history of a family where 7 people died on Christmas morning.
When a chilling 911 call came in at 11:34 a.m. on Christmas Day in 2011, it immediately set off alarm bells for the Grapevine, Texas police.
Grapevine 911, where is your emergency? Hello, Grapevine 911. You need help? Are you sick? What was that? Do you need an ambulance or police? Hello? One moment. I was just getting heavy breathing on the phone and I was talking, so please send me.
The voice on the other end was faint, muttering what sounded like, help me," before the line went dead. Concerned for the welfare of whoever was inside, officers were dispatched to the home where the call originated. When officers arrived at the apartment, they were met with an eerie silence after their knocking yielded no response. When they forced the door open, they were unprepared for the horrifying scene awaiting them. Inside the living room, surrounded by Christmas presents and torn wrapping paper, lay the bodies of 7 people, all shot to death. The victims, all family members, ranged in age from teenagers to seniors. This was no random act of violence, it was a massacre.
Police believe the shooting was carried out by a relative dressed as Santa Claus. Authorities say the shooter showed up in costume as family members were opening gifts. A 911 call brought police to the apartment complex where they found 4 females and 3 males dead.
But who were these victims? And what kind of darkness could drive someone to commit such an unspeakable act on Christmas Day?
Their bodies were found in what was otherwise the evidence of a normal Christmas morning. There were Christmas presents that had been unwrapped, and there was paper strewn about the room. Police did also find 2 handguns on the floor of the apartment in the living room, again, which is just behind this apartment behind me here. But obviously, no doubt, a very sad situation in this town on Christmas morning, which calls itself the Christmas capital of Texas.
Aziz Yazdanpanah, born on May 29, 1955 in Iran, was known to many as a strict and serious man, but those close to him often spoke of his deep love for his family. It was in Iran where Aziz met his wife Nasrin, born on February 4, 1956. Together, they embarked on a new life in America, settling in Colleyville, Texas, where they raised their 2 children, 19-year-old Nona and 14-year-old Ali. Aziz, the primary breadwinner of the household, worked in real estate, while Nasrin was a dedicated stay-at-home mum who was said to have a softer, more understanding approach with the children. Though Aziz was known for his strict demeanor, a neighbor remarked that he loved his kids. This seemingly ordinary family was pursuing the American dream, yet beneath the surface, tensions were brewing, setting the stage for a tragedy that would shock everyone in the community. Over the years, Aziz and Nasrin's marriage faced mounting strain, much of it tied to financial hardship. In 1996, Aziz pleaded guilty in federal court to 1 count of subscribing to a false income tax return. This conviction placed him on 3 years probation, with a $1,000 fine and $30,119 in restitution. The hefty financial penalty weighed heavily on the family, who were already struggling to make ends meet. By 1999, their financial troubles reached a breaking point, leading Aziz and Nasrin to jointly file for bankruptcy. Though the case was discharged within months, it marked the beginning of an increasingly precarious financial situation. Matters worsened in 2007 when Aziz left the real estate industry, cutting off the family's primary source of income. Until then, Aziz had forbidden Nasrin from working, despite her having a state cosmetology license that could have provided a supplemental income. However, when Aziz became unemployed, Nasrin stepped in as the family's breadwinner, taking on 2 jobs at 2 different spas to keep the household afloat. Aziz's frustration grew as the family dynamic shifted and the traditional roles he had once upheld changed. With Nasrin now the primary breadwinner, Aziz began to feel increasingly powerless. The financial dependence on his wife, coupled with his inability to contribute, seemed to deeply wound his pride, and tensions started to rise in the household. One of Nasreen's friends who owned a beauty salon nearby said, "She worked hard to keep the family together, but he wasn't willing to do anything." Friends and neighbors noted a palpable tension in the household, stemming from Aziz's resentment over the reversal of roles. For a man who once prided himself on being the provider, watching Nasreen carry the weight of the family's financial burdens was a constant source of anger and bitterness. Despite Nasreen's tireless efforts to support her family, financial struggles persisted. By August 2010, she was forced to file for bankruptcy once again, hoping it would stave off foreclosure on the family home. However, the tension in the household continued to grow, and resentment toward Aziz deepened, not only from Nasreen, but also from their children, Nona and Ali. After 24 years of marriage, Nasreen reached her breaking point. The weight of Aziz's inactivity and refusal to contribute had become unbearable, and she decided to separate from him. According to her attorney, George Barnes, Nasreen was firm in her decision to distance herself. "Please don't talk to the husband at all," she reportedly instructed, signaling the extent of the strain in their relationship. In April 2011, Nasreen decided to leave the family's home in Colleyville, seeking a fresh start. She moved with her 2 children, Nona and Ali, to an apartment complex at the Lincoln Vineyards in Grapevine, just 2 miles away. Aziz, meanwhile, remained in the Colleyville family home. To outsiders, the separation seemed inconspicuous. Neighbors noted few signs of discord and were even unaware that Nasreen and the children had moved out. A neighbor across the street remarked that just months prior, the family appeared united, attending a garage sale together. He also recalled seeing Aziz volunteer at a high school debate tournament where Nona participated. To those around him, Aziz seemed like a devoted father and a neighborly presence. Fred said, "He was, from everything that we saw, actively engaged with his children. He was pretty outgoing. If you saw him, he'd say hi to you and everything." Meanwhile, Nasreen and the children worked hard to move forward. Despite the challenges, they were finding their stride in their new life apart from Aziz. Nona graduated from Colleyville Heritage High School and enrolled at a local community college, dreaming of transferring to a school in California to pursue her goal of becoming a lawyer. During this time, however, one of Nona's friends said that Nona had hinted in August 2011 that her life was becoming more difficult, but never went into details. For Aziz, on the other hand, watching his family thrive without him, as well as losing Nasreen's financial support, only made him more and more angry. Aziz was on the verge of snapping, and what followed would leave a permanent scar on everyone connected to him. On Christmas Day 2011, Nasreen eagerly prepared to host a festive holiday celebration at her new apartment, hoping to bring joy and comfort to her family after a tumultuous year. Alongside her children, Nona and Ali, she welcomed her sister Zora, brother-in-law Hussein, and their daughter Sarah. Somehow, Aziz found out about the gathering. Consumed by rage and jealousy over being excluded, Aziz decided to head on over. Dressed in a Santa suit, he drove to the apartment complex at 2500 Hall Johnson Road, parking his SUV nearby. Aziz knocked on the door, claiming to be there to surprise the children. Wanting to keep the peace, Nasreen allowed him to enter, but it was clear to everyone that no one was happy to see him. Before 11 a.m., Nasreen's niece Sarah sent a clearly sarcastic text to her friend saying, "So we're here, we just got here, and my uncle is here too, dressed as Santa, awesome." Then, at 11:15 a.m., she sent another one saying, "Now he wants to be all fatherly and win Father of the Year." Minutes later, at 11:34 a.m., a 911 call was made from inside the apartment.
Grapevine 911, where is your emergency? Hello, Grapevine 911. You need help?
The operator heard a muffled voice, barely audible, believed to be whispering the words, "Help me, help me." The call disconnected abruptly. Alarmed, police traced the address and dispatched officers to conduct a welfare check. They arrived at the Lincoln Vineyards apartment complex just 3 minutes later. After knocking and receiving no response, they forced their way inside and were met with a scene of unimaginable horror. Surrounded by unopened Christmas presents and festive decorations, the bodies of all 7 family members lay lifeless, victims of a calculated and heartless massacre.
I've been with this police department for 12 years, and this is probably the most tragic thing that I've certainly been involved with. And I think, I can speak safely for the rest of the police department. I don't think any members of the police department has encountered something like this on Christmas Day.
This is a sort of tight-knit, very packed-together apartment complex. We have spoken to several neighbors who are waking up this day after Christmas morning. They're all asking us what happened. They're speaking about a tragedy, something like this they would not otherwise expect. On the other side of this apartment complex, there is a brown fence, and beyond that is a high school here, Colleyville Heritage High School, which is noted to be one of the best high schools in the entire North Texas region. People move here because this is a safe community, and they're saying, obviously, they have to question that given what happened yesterday.
Ali, Nona, Sarah and Zora were each found shot multiple times in the head. Hussein, Nasreen's brother-in-law, bore gunshot wounds to the head, chest and stomach, suggesting he had either tried to flee or fight back against the attacker. Nasreen and Aziz were each found with a single gunshot to the head. The discovery of 2 firearms added a layer of complexity. One weapon was a 9mm pistol and the second was a .40 caliber firearm. Strangely, the autopsy revealed that all the victims, except for Hussein, had been shot with the same weapon. Hussein, however, had been shot with both guns. To add to the confusion, Hussein was found clutching the 9mm pistol, one of the guns used to kill him. Aziz was found holding the other gun. The lack of forced entry added an extra layer of complexity to the case. But by December 26th, investigators were confident they had identified the killer.
In the meantime, police also say that the gunman does have a history with police. They are not saying in what way or with which department, but they will tell us they are now working closely with those police departments as they try to investigate this case more.
Tracing the firearms was the first breakthrough. The 9mm pistol, one of the weapons used in the massacre, had been purchased in 1996 and registered to Aziz. Ballistic testing provided further clarity. Gunshot residue testing revealed that Aziz had residue all over his hands, indicating he had fired a weapon multiple times. Hussein, in contrast, had only a trace amount of residue on him, similarly to the other victims, suggesting he had not actively used a gun. The police then re-examined the chilling 911 call made at 11:34 a.m., enhancing the audio to uncover additional details.
It does sound like someone initially had said help, help, but it's more of a kind of a raspy, heavy breathing type of sound. Then you hear, more heavy breathing as the 911 call continues, approximately 30 seconds or so, and then it disconnects.
In the enhanced recording, 2 distinct voices were heard. The first, a muffled and desperate plea in the background, whispered, "Help me, help me." A whisper at the end of the call was also picked up, and they concluded that this was the caller themselves, saying the words, "I am shooting people," before hanging up the phone.
What was that?
The voice matched that of an older man, and all evidence pointed to Aziz as the caller. This harrowing admission confirmed that Aziz himself had made the call while executing his family.
No one knew he had arrived with 2 handguns he intended to use, and when he did, police say, he caught his victims totally by surprise. Family friends are telling us that the alleged gunman is this man, 56-year-old Aziz Yazdanpanah, that he had arrived at the apartment of his estranged wife, their 19-year-old daughter, and 15-year-old son. Police now tell us the gunman acted very quickly, shooting and killing all 6 victims before killing himself between 11:16 and 11:32 in the morning, never having to reload either handgun used.
The police also believe that before turning the gun on himself, Aziz had seemingly attempted to divert blame. The 9mm pistol, registered to Aziz, was found in Hussein's hand. However, this weapon bore no fingerprints, suggesting it had been carefully wiped clean. Police concluded that Aziz had deliberately placed the weapon in Hussein's hand, attempting to frame him. Despite his attempts to muddy the truth, the evidence overwhelmingly revealed that Aziz had orchestrated and executed the horrific crime. In a final act of control, he had not only taken the lives of his family members, but had also tried to manipulate how the tragedy would be interpreted. Grapevine Police Sergeant Robert Ebeling said, "We think he was just inside there celebrating Christmas with the rest of them and decided for whatever reason that's how he's going to end things. I think he was probably overwhelmed when it was all said and done and decided to take his life instead. We really don't have a clear idea of why he did this. Sometimes there's not a really good explanation for irrational behavior."
No, there is no known motive, at least is one that police are telling us about. There is also no outward sign of the horrible tragedy that unplayed right through this sliding glass and door frame here of this apartment complex in Grapevine. Again, you described as a suburb of Fort Worth and Dallas here in greater North Texas.
The events leading up to the Grapevine massacre remain shrouded in mystery. What exactly transpired in the brief window between Sarah's texts to her friends and the harrowing 911 call will likely never be fully known. While the apparent motive centers on Aziz's anger and jealousy over his estranged wife and children thriving without him, additional theories have surfaced regarding his state of mind and potential motivations. A news article reported by the Dallas Morning News suggested that Aziz seemed to be losing control of his life in the recent months. His wife left him, his house was in foreclosure, and his 19-year-old daughter, Nona, was dating someone he didn't like. The site quoted Lacey Reed, a classmate and friend of Nona, who reportedly described Aziz's strict control over his daughter's life. She said, "Nona would come to school crying and telling us her dad was crazy. He wouldn't let her wear certain things. He was always taking her phone away, checking her call history, and checking her text messages. She couldn't date at all until she was a certain age, but when he was going to let her date, she couldn't date anyone outside of their race or religion." The same source alleged that Aziz had gone so far as to install cameras around the family home, and that he had nailed Nona's bedroom window shut so she could not sneak out at night and see her boyfriend, further illustrating his obsessive need for control. The Dallas Morning News also brought forward a series of potential motives and insights into Aziz's state of mind and relationships leading up to the tragedy. Through their open records request, the publication unearthed details from the police report that shed new light on Aziz's fractured relationships, jealousy, and mounting grievances. One potential source of anger stemmed from Aziz's relationship with his brother-in-law, Hussein. According to police reports, Aziz had confided in a friend that he and Hussein had lied to their wives during certain trips, using hotel rooms to meet with prostitutes. However, Aziz believed that Hussein had later betrayed his trust, confessing only Aziz's actions to Nasrin's sister Zora. This revelation could have strained their relationship and fueled Aziz's resentment, particularly towards Hussein, potentially explaining why he framed him. Nasrin's decision to leave Aziz and take the children also weighed heavily on him. Allegedly, she had left him in the family home without electricity or running water. Kimberly Garcia, a co-worker of Nasrin, told police that Nasrin had left Aziz because he was not fulfilling what she called his Muslim responsibility of providing for the family. To make matters worse, Aziz reportedly felt ostracized by his in-laws, particularly Zora, who he believed had a significant influence over Nasrin and the children. He told friends that Zora painted him as evil and interfered in his marriage. Mark Beglari, another friend of Aziz, confirmed this sentiment. Mark recalled that Aziz felt Zora controlled his wife and children, making him feel alienated from his own family. Mark told police in a phone interview that Aziz said his sister-in-law had control over his wife and children, and they would listen to her when she called him evil. Before the Christmas party, Aziz reportedly told Mark that he planned to attend, but he was later informed he was not welcome, and Mark said this may have been the straw that broke the camel's back. Nasrin herself had expressed concerns about Aziz in the months leading up to the attack. She spoke with her apartment management, telling them she feared him. A co-worker also revealed that Nasrin confided that Aziz was not coping well with their impending divorce. Another Colleyville neighbor of Aziz referred to him as Packing Heat Bob because he had once spoken about carrying a gun because he was having problems with his daughter's boyfriends. Days after the devastating Grapevine massacre, on the evening of Wednesday, December 28, 2011, the community gathered to honor and mourn the lives of the Yazdanpanah family. The candlelight vigil brought together friends, family and neighbors, united in grief and shock over the tragedy that had claimed 6 lives on Christmas Day. Fran Hosseini, a longtime friend of the family, expressed the profound sense of loss felt by those who knew them, saying, "It's so hard to handle this tragic incident. They were just a sweet family. We are having a hard time understanding this." Fran shared a call she had received earlier that morning from relatives of the family in Iran who were concerned that no one would mourn the victims in their absence. Fran reassured them, saying, "Nobody's going to forget them." Soraya Sayed, another close family friend who had been present for the births of Nona and Ali, described her devastation, saying, "Nona was a tiny thing. She had love for everyone. You can't imagine what we're going through right now." Nasreen was remembered as a devoted mother who worked tirelessly to support her family, even when unwell. Kimberly Garcia, her colleague at a South Lake spa, praised Nasreen's resilience and generosity, reminiscing about the homemade food she often brought to share with co-workers. Jonathan Garcia, the boyfriend of Nasreen's niece Sarah, recalled their last moments together just 2 days before the tragedy. He said, "We went to see Christmas lights. Christmas was her favorite time of the year. She left us happy." Zora, Nasreen's sister, was remembered by Rhonda Revels, who had worked for her in the 1990s, as a kind and radiant soul. She said, "Zora was one of the most beautiful people inside and out." Another of Nasreen's friends said that 2 sisters, Nasreen and Zora, were the nicest people in the world, angels, and that the Persian community was devastated. Mona Hosseini, who grew up with the children, said, "They were as close as siblings. They basically called each other sister, brother. They were everybody's best friend, and everybody loved them so much." A surprising and emotional moment came when Robert Cisneros revealed himself as Nona's longtime boyfriend. The relationship, according to Robert, had been kept secret due to Aziz's disapproval. Police records painted a complicated picture. Robert had reportedly been the subject of multiple Colleyville police reports, alleging harassment and threats toward Nona following their breakup the previous year. Nona had shown police threatening text messages from Robert, and earlier in 2011, he was arrested for allegedly attempting to cause a head-on collision with the Yazdanpanah family's car. He served 38 days in jail for the incident, though he denied these allegations at the vigil, saying simply, "I miss her so much." The vigil ended with a moving rendition of Amazing Grace as mourners released white balloons into the night sky, symbolizing their collective grief and love for the family. This is such a tragic case, and the fact that it happened during the holidays, a time which is meant to be filled with love and laughter, is even more heartbreaking. Unable to accept his family moving on and building a life of happiness and success without him, Aziz chose to destroy what he could no longer control. Rather than find peace in their joy or seek his own path forward, he decided that if he couldn't have them, no one could. As always, my heart goes out to everyone impacted by Aziz's selfish and evil actions. Rest in peace, Nasrin, Nona, Ali, Hussein, Zora and Sarah.